that I think is so important for entrepreneurs. It's like, you're always frantic. There's always something that comes up, a fire that has to be put out. You just got to be able to learn faster than other people how to fix it and how to overcome it. So yeah, I found that to be really powerful. When you approach someone looking for something, like you want to take something from them, it never works. Because, I mean, they don't know you. They're realistically probably a lot busier than you, doing more important things if you're looking for them to be their mentor. So at the end of the day, it's like, provide value to them, be a resource for them, look to help them, find a way to make them better. And then just have an ask. Just know that if you're willing to work for someone for free and you see the value in that, then that's another huge opportunity. One way to get leads is LinkedIn, knocking doors, cold calling is one thing I've done to get leads a ton. Believe it or not, I'm talking about marketing a lot, but at the end of the day, if you're bootstrapping a company and you want to spend as little money as possible, pick up the phone.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Hey listeners and viewers, we have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. Come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. That is bootstrapping.group. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Matt Gorgolinski. Matt is a marketing strategist, a business developer, and lover of all things sales. He's the founder of High Impact Marketing and is soon to transition from a sales role into real estate. Awesome. Let's welcome Matt. Hi, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me, Manuj.
Awesome. We are excited to have you. Now let's talk about yourself. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story and how did you get into sales and marketing?
Okay, perfect. So my story really starts from a while before I started working. It started when I was playing baseball all throughout my whole life growing up. So baseball and athletics was the backbone really to who I am, because for the first 21 years of my life, it's all I knew. I went to school, I went to college, I got my degree, but to be honest, college wasn't really my focus. I wasn't locked into college. I just knew what I needed to do to get by, but I wasn't getting value from it. My value was baseball. And from that, I realized about halfway through my senior year, I'm not going to get drafted because I had this dream all the way up, right? Like my whole life, we're working to get drafted. We're working to make the big leagues. And I realized like, okay, my shoulder's hurting a little bit. I'm not throwing as many strikes as I would like to. I'm not going to get drafted, just like sitting and being realistic with myself. But I'm like, I know that everything I've learned in baseball is going to pay off. And it's going to be all the lessons I've learned, all the mentality structures I've learned are going to help pay off when I get into the work world. So long story short, pitched my last game of my college baseball career. I was a pitcher. And then it's so weird because I was living with one of my best friends to this day. He was my roommate in school. And he had been talking to me about this company we wanted to get started once school was done, once ball was done. We were playing together. So I started building this vision for myself of what came after ball, before ball even stopped. So it was so weird because before my last game I pitched, I remember doing auto-suggestion from Think and Grow Rich that I've been doing for months prior about the company we're going to build, the life we're going to build. And I just knew it was over, but I knew there was a transition period that was going to be powerful. So got into business, was so hungry just to be successful, because I'm like, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to put in this work, I want to be successful in my own terms of success. So started working in different roles. I started that company with Steve, my buddy, with Steve that we were talking about. I found out it was an MLM within 2 weeks of being there. I left because it didn't feel good. It felt kind of slimy, but it taught me that I love the framework of entrepreneurship. So from there, I started a sales job where I've been doing in-home sales with families and consumers of home improvement products for the past 2 years, roughly. That's meeting face-to-face sales. Been doing online digital marketing sales, done tech sales, done tech business development. So I've been a lot of different places, and essentially I've just been trying to sharpen my value as a human to businesses and what I can offer to the world. So that's kind of my background, where I come from. I'm just a hungry, driven guy who really wants to make an impact on the people around me and just be valuable. Really, that's it.
Awesome. So two things you touched upon. One was the mental structure that you developed going through, this hard regime of practicing baseball. And then the other thing that you touched upon was Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon. These are, I think these are two fundamental things that people need to understand. So can you shed a little bit more light on that? Like what kind of development did you go through mentally when you were going through your baseball career, and what did you gain out of what kind of learnings did you get from Think and Grow Rich? And give us some practical tips, something that people can implement in their own lives as well.
I love that. So I'll start with, what did I learn from baseball? So baseball taught me a few things, but I went to 4 schools in 4 years. I played at 4 different colleges, and I also had different coaches throughout high school. So I got to see a lot of different leadership styles and how the leadership of our coaches would affect our team. So I got to learn like how I wanted to present myself as a leader in the future by learning from people like that. People who I trusted, not everyone, but I would pick from the people who I thought were a good role model and were successful. And also I was just taught mental toughness, because the truth is, like, I got punched in the face a lot during my athletic career. And like some of it was self-imposed, some of it came from the outside. Like I got Tommy John surgery, for example, after my freshman year. That's like a 1.5 year setback. So just getting dealt with getting punched in the face. And I've always been the guy where I don't really take things too personal. I more just want to get over it and get better. And it's just like kind of water off a duck's back thing, because we all have life and it goes a certain point and we get to grow and learn as long as we can, and it's over. So I don't really see too much of a finite mentality in terms of the growth, but it just taught me to always grow, to be resilient, because you're going to lose, and it's about the failures that teach you how to be successful, and just to enjoy what you do, because I always love my teammates. Like being around a culture of amazing people, my friends, like people who turn into almost family. I just realized I love to be around people who are uplifting and have the same mentality as me, which has been interesting to take that over to business actually too.
Yeah. And what about Think and Grow Rich? I mean, that book has played quite a significant role in many people's lives, including mine. So what did you take from that?
I'd love to hear about how it's impacted yours. For me, it's been huge. It actually, I don't know if I can explain it like down to a science, but it created this spark inside my head that when I sat in front of the mirror and I told myself a story of what my life was going to look like in the future every single day and night for 6 months straight, it gave me this like burning sensation inside me to make it happen no matter what. I believe, like, for me, Think and Grow Rich, it trained me. It programmed me to realize that I'm going to make it happen no matter what comes in the way, no matter what roadblock. And it's just a matter of overcoming, growing, and there's abundance out there. That's the truth. It just made me realize that there's abundance out there, and if you're worth it, then you'll be able to earn it.
Awesome. That's great. Now let's talk about some of the practical things with marketing and sales. So when you got started, did you have to learn everything from the ground up, or what was that journey like?
This is where school is interesting. I was looking back on some podcasts you've had in the past and I was listening to Jordan Paris's podcast, how he talks about school is a scam. Now, this is a topic that can be talked about tons of different perspectives. But at the end of the day, my experience with college was I was a baseball player. I knew how to get the grades to pass. I always could public speak. I always could wing a paper. But at the end of the day, I was not going to college to get value to start my life. And even if I was, looking back at the curriculum I was taught, it's not applicable to what I want to do and to the type of success I want to have. It seems like Jordan said, it trains people to be almost like a corporate drone, just to teach you how to it's just the framework shift of how you want to learn. So to answer your question, pretty short and sweet, what I found is once school was done, I started learning because I chose what I wanted to learn. So I'm kind of a believer in both schools of thought and being a self-learner and also being able to find really amazing mentors, because in the beginning, it was great to be able to go online and pick my own mentors. I would go on YouTube and look up who are the best sales coaches, who are the best coaches in this space, and I would try and learn from them. So they would help me level up to a point. But I found that when I was actually willing to make the investment into a coach and to be in the trenches with them, it cut the learning curve so much faster. But in general, I'm a big believer that I don't know what I don't know. I always need to be learning because everything's changing. And in reality, the way school teaches you, they teach you to memorize, not to be a learner. And there's this topic, it's called just-in-time thinking, that I think is so important for entrepreneurs, or just-in-time learning that I think is so important for entrepreneurs. It's like, you're always frantic. There's always something that comes up, a fire that has to be put out. You just got to be able to learn faster than other people how to fix it and how to overcome it. So yeah, I found that to be really powerful.
Awesome. Yeah. And you all, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know one step ahead. You just need to know the next step. So as you put it, just-in-time learning also incorporates that just one slice of learning. You don't need to know the whole history behind or all the steps that are incorporated into whatever you are trying to accomplish, right?
I compare that to reading a book, like a textbook in college. It's like the teacher says, sit down and read page 1 to 100, but there was only one little snippet out of there that was going to help you achieve the goal you wanted to. So why did you spend 6 hours reading page 1 to 100 when you could have gone to the high level or Googled it, right? Yeah. So that's just the different types of learning that college could teach.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So now you mentioned coaches and mentors. So it's an interesting approach that you went on YouTube and found the mentor. So can you share some of the techniques, some of the ways that you approach these people, and what kind of responses you got?
Well, a lot of the work I've done with mentors has actually been just me going to them. Like, for example, Tony Robbins, I've probably been to 6 to 7 Tony Robbins events in my life. One, I went out to Fiji to see him and just be in that space. So I would say that when it comes to approaching, people are usually really giving, people who are successful. And if they see promise in you and you are what you want, what you envision to be, like you act what you aspire to be, people want to help and people want to help change your life in reality. But what I found is when you approach someone looking for something, like you want to take something from them, it never works. Because, I mean, they don't know you. They're realistically probably a lot busier than you, doing more important things if you're looking for them to be their mentor. So at the end of the day, it's like, provide value to them, be a resource for them, look to help them, find a way to make them better. And then just have an ask. Just know that if you're willing to work for someone for free and you see the value in that, then that's another huge opportunity.
Cool.
Manuj, I'm a big believer that when you have a mentor, if you pay for it, which I've done many times, when you pay for a mentor, you make the money back. I almost make the money back within a month every single time I invest in a mentor. And that's because, one, I'm super selective about who I choose and make sure they know what they're doing and they can take me where I want to go, and then just take action. But if you take action, like the one problem is when you have a mentor, people just don't take that massive action that they need to take, like right when they learn it. They sit on it, they think about it, they ponder, and it's tough. It's so hard. Like, it's always difficult, but I found that when you take action right away, you end up getting that ROI back, and then you have a skill set that you can monetize for life. So
yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right. So now let's talk about leads. Business leads, and this is I think a universal topic that every entrepreneur is interested in. Even professionals who are looking for a job change or whatever. I mean, they're always looking for that next lead, that next connection that can give them that edge up. So how do you find these leads? What is your mechanism? How do you improve yourself? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, being that I had to start scrapping, because the first business development job I ever had was at a company called MPH International. They were a tech development company, web and mobile apps. I literally knew nothing about it when I got into it, but all I knew was I was going to work hard to make it happen, like I told you. So it's so funny. Looking back, it was brutal what I would do in the beginning. I would literally make flyers and go door to door in my HOA complex, telling people, because we're in Silicon Valley. In my head, I was thinking, I have no clue what to do, but some people are probably in tech. Like, why not? So I just started like finding ways to grind. And then I started researching better ways to grind, because I always want to do things more optimally, like more efficiently. And I realized walking door to door with flyers wasn't the most efficient way to do things. So the owner of the company asked me if I heard of LinkedIn. So then I jumped into LinkedIn, and I was basically forced to learn how to do LinkedIn. Again, in the beginning, it was not a good look. I was sending out mass messages, just trying to add a network. And I learned so much from that. Like, I learned so much about the art of building relationships with people, why that matters, why delivering value matters. So went from LinkedIn, had a huge learning curve there, started offering LinkedIn as a service to people, had a few clients I was working with, realized it wasn't a market I wanted to get into scaling. It's not something I wanted to really get involved with, like, as a big picture. So again, like that right there, I look at that as a skill set, right? So that's one way to get leads is LinkedIn, knocking doors, cold calling is one thing I've done to get leads a ton. Believe it or not, I'm talking about marketing a lot, but at the end of the day, if you're bootstrapping a company and you want to spend as little money as possible, pick up the phone. It's something that so many people don't want to do. Honestly, once I had my cold call, before and after, I had a cold call coach. His name was Josh Braun. He's amazing at cold calling, and especially coaching it too. Before that, I was cold calling on real estate agents to do marketing for them. I would book one meeting every hour, and probably 1 out of 4 showed up because it just wasn't a good cold call process. It wasn't succinct. After working with him for a week, I was booking 2 to 3 meetings an hour, and they almost all showed up. Not everybody. It's not always everybody, but almost everybody showed up. So with everything, this is a topic, Manuj, that I'm sure you've heard before. It's not the medium. Like right now, we're focusing heavy on Facebook and Instagram because it's really working. The leads are low cost. They're generating high revenue. Our clients are really happy. So that's why we're focusing on Facebook and Instagram. Mostly, we do some other stuff right now. But if you don't have the money, cold calling is high ROI. If you have more money and you want to scale, then paid advertisement's great. But if you're looking to bootstrap, there's so many different ways to get leads. It's just about getting your nose dirty and getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one thing, very interesting point you brought up was, the show up rate or the conversion rate. If we apply that in different industries, so getting leads, I think people can get leads, but it's the conversion part. It's the getting them from a lead stage to somebody who may invest their time or money or something like that. So, can you give us some strategies around that? Like how maybe even from your cold calling days, like how do you get them to show up or convert them?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different strategies, and it also depends on how the lead comes in. Mm-hmm. But let's just talk about 2. Let's talk about digital, like online leads, Facebook leads, and cold calling. Yeah. So when we talk about a Facebook lead, a lot of times people click with some sort of interest, but it's not always the highest intent website. So when you have a website that's not always really high intent, then it's going to have a lot to do with the nurture, because they didn't just break their toilet right now. They don't need a plumber, but they're starting to have a little hitch in the dowel or whatever it's called that flushes the toilet. So they're starting to deal with a problem on their pain meter. It's like, I think of it as like a pain meter, 1 to 10. How hot is their pain right now? And if they're a 10, super high intent, that's awesome. But basically, if they're not, then you're going to have to nurture them, and you're going to have to be able to provide value after that first opt-in. When they give you their name, email, and their phone number, you're going to have to be able to not send a, hey, pitch, whatever your pitch is. You want to be able to make them smile. They're a customer. It's such an interesting revelation as a marketer when you take it from, I'm doing an automated campaign, and you just think of it as I'm doing automated marketing, to there's actually a person at the other end of every single message, every single email, every voicemail. And if you treat it like that and think about the fact that humans buy a lot of the time over half with emotion and they back it up with logic, you change how you speak to these people, right? So with online leads, you got to have a long-term nurture track. You got to be able to follow up with these people over time. Make them smile is something I really believe in. Infotainment, be able to give them information and also educate them to make them smarter. And a lot of times when you make them smarter, they learn things that they never knew before they needed, which is why they'll then come to you. So with online leads, you need a nurture track. It's not a one and done. And on top of that, you need to call every single lead within 2 minutes. And 2 minutes nowadays is kind of long, really. But if you're not calling that inbound lead, basically, if you don't have a system set up to send you a text message or an email the second you get an inbound lead, and then to call them, it's a nightmare. It's wasting a ton of money. People have a very short attention span nowadays. And like the guy from Go High Level, I forget his name, who was on your last podcast, I use his software. I use Go High Level. Our team's about to implement, speaking of quick implementation, we're about to put in the auto call strategy too. with our clients today, where you make a call automatically when a lead comes in, they follow up on the spot. If not, leave a voicemail. It's little things like this and trying to always improve the speed to lead also that's super key.
And so you mentioned a nurture sequence. I hear a lot of different opinions about this. Some people say, you need to have like a five message sequence. Some people say at least 7. Some people go as high as 180 or more messages. So, like, can you break us down, like, how, if somebody does not know anything about nurturing leads, what is a basic strategy they can adopt to get going?
Someone does not know how to nurture leads. It will depend on what industry we're in, right? I mean, because for example, real estate has a really long sales cycle. Most of the time when someone clicks on your Facebook ad, it's like 3 months to a year and a half by the time they want to buy or sell their property. They're just getting some interest. So for that person, it's the best time to win them over. In my opinion, it's way better than a Google lead because you have the opportunity to show them who you are over that time period and what your brand is for when they're ready to buy. So one thing that you have to know your customer. You have to know your customer because if you don't know what they need and what their problems are, they just won't care. They just won't listen to anything you have to say. And that's just because they get hit up so much by different marketers and campaigns that if it's not great, it's written off. So I would say do a ton of homework on who your ideal client is. Talk to your customers about what their problems are, what their positive experiences and negative experiences have been with your product or service, and just figure out how you can provide value and make all that better. Like one thing I think is powerful to create a good nurture campaign is to Google. What are Google problems that your customer has and questions they have, and create video content to answer their question. Just show yourself as an expert. And again, like every industry has different ways to make content entertaining or fun. But I believe you have to know your customer to know how to make it entertaining and fun. Because if not, it's not relevant and you still lose them. So knowing the customer is the base, and then being consistent too. Like being consistent and showing people your brand over time with, maybe it's not always a video. Maybe it's an ebook from time to time. Maybe it's a link to a funny video that makes them smile and thinks about the product or service. It's little things with humans. It's just the emotional piece. So there's tons of people out there you can study. You can go on Google and type in, how do I create a good nurture campaign? There's all these frameworks and this and that, but everyone has an opinion. And really, it's just about how can you find the best way to provide consistent value for your prospects.
Great. Now, you brought up another point, the branding. So, this again is a huge confusion between, what a brand is. Like some people think a brand is a logo. Some people think it's the name of the company. So what do you see as a brand? Like how do you develop a brand? How do you create a brand that is well known?
The term brand, the meaning and the connotation around it seems to have changed over the last 10 years, maybe. And I wasn't in the business world too heavy 10 years ago, but I've obviously done my research on what history has shown. And it looks like the logo and the way your company looks to the public and what your sign looks like on the front of the building, it used to hold a lot more weight because there was a lot less competition. Or it used to hold more weight, because there's more competition. Now, there's just so many people playing in the same space. It's so difficult to stand out if your brand does not consist of more than a logo and a nice sign in front of your building. To be honest, everyone has that. But what's interesting too is I'm starting to realize business owners are becoming more woke. They realize the value of branding more than just having a brand photo or logo. A brand now involves being a front-facing member of the community. Like if you want to develop a solid brand, people need to see you. They need to see you consistently. You need to be able to show your prospects and your network that you're an authority by A, having the knowledge, and B, having the experience to solve their problems. You need to build strong connections with people who could potentially be of value to you and you could be of value to. Partnerships are amazing by just building brand. This situation right here, like realistically, if I hadn't been posting videos on LinkedIn, if I hadn't been posting content and explaining what I'm doing, we probably would have never met. Exactly. And I'm super grateful we did get to meet. So at the end of the day, brand to me means how you're representing yourself in the community, like in any way, shape, or form. Brand is not just social. Brand is not just the sign. Brand is when you put on an event for your ideal clients around the area and you care about, you're showing how much you care about them. That's positive brand equity, in my opinion. Sorry, long story short, I think brand is a very vague topic nowadays because it's talked about in so many different, just different ways.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's how you're represented to your community. Long story.
I think you summed it up pretty well. And one thing, again, you brought up was, showing up and presenting yourself. So content also plays a huge role in building your brand.
Yeah, content is huge in building your brand. And I mean, go on LinkedIn, you see everyone talking about post content, post content, post content. Now it's gone from post content to make sure your content is good. There's always the just start, which is like, just go, just start. Like you have to start somewhere, which is true. Like I feel like every time I post, I'm actually getting better at posting because I'm getting more consistent. I'm getting more comfortable. And that's just the content creation mentality. But it's also like, if everyone else is posting content, then don't just post random content. Make sure that it's adding value. Make sure you've done your homework. And one thing I saw that's actually been a really powerful way to make sure that your content is relevant and that you're building positive brand for the people who you want to view you as positive. Yeah. I saw Brandon Bornanson over at Seamless AI put up a post about how his framework is for content. And it's very similar to how Jordan talked about his framework for life on your show. It's have 4 rules of thumb, 3 rules of thumb that you define your life by and you define your content by. I think Brandon's was, I want to impact 1 billion people. Is my content maximizing their health and their wealth? And then there was 2 other things. Basically thinking of reverse engineer, is this helping my end audience? And is this really bringing them value? And if it doesn't hit that umbrella of whatever the 3 or 4 or 5 criteria that you wrote down as your mandatory umbrella for what your content is, then don't post it. If it does, do post it. That's the other thing too. I've been noticing more and more people post. There's not like a set amount. You don't have to like overthink. Only once a day, sometimes people are posting 3 to 4 times a day and every post is getting amazing traction and it's all about stuff their client cares about, which is positive brand equity. So content is huge, but the tact behind the content is also very huge.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think about video content versus audio versus text?
I love it all. I think some people are better than others. I think that you got to bet on your strengths and you got to be willing to realize that some people are not good on video because they don't want to be, maybe. But I personally believe you can always grow. There's always room for growth. But Josh Fechter was an amazing writer. He was on LinkedIn a while ago. He made a company called, or acquired now what is now Squibbler. It's a writing app. Mm-hmm. And he was an influencer predominantly on text posts. And he was just so good as an author, and he had such good writing skills that his posts would go viral. But most people were thinking at the time video was in. Video was what hit. Yeah. So I think there's power in everything. And the biggest power is in knowing where you're good and where you're not, and where you can improve and where you want someone else to do it for you. But video, to answer your question, though, is hitting very hard. I think if you're equally good at all 3 and you had to pick one to go in on, I'd go in on video. But at the same time, I think there's also value in finding different channels and using them all differently.
Awesome. Now let's talk about your growth and maybe some struggles, some mistakes that you have made. So, it's always good to learn from other people's mistakes. Can you share any that you made? I'm assuming you made some.
Yes, definitely. So failing forward, yes. A big believer in failing forward. It starts from door knocking on my neighbors' houses in my HOA. Yeah. Like, what guy who had any business dev sense would have really done that? I mean, there's no target ideal client there. I just started. Honestly, Manuj, I feel like every day I'm learning. Like every single day I'm learning how to be better and how to make the people around me better. The truth is, failure, it's so interesting because I really do think of failures as just learning lessons along the way. It's kind of hard for me to classify it as a failure in my head because when I go home, put my head on the pillow, it's not a failure. Yeah. But there's been lots of one learning lesson I've had that's really been helpful. In the beginning, I said yes to pretty much anything because I was so hungry. I knew I had so many skills to develop. I found that once I realized where I really wanted to go in on, having the power to say no, but being able to do it in a respectful way that you're not hurting the other person's feelings is really important. Because what I think is important, the other person, no matter what they're doing, they think it is equally as important. because it's their life, regardless of who I am or who I'm talking to. So I think it's really important just to take that into account.
Yeah, for sure. And have you seen that that kind of mentality of saying yes with other businesses? I've seen that very, very frequently, and it actually backfires in almost all cases. So what is your experience with other founders, other entrepreneurs, other professionals?
Yeah, like you said, fails in almost every single scenario. Shiny object syndrome is the most scary thing to me now. Like literally so scary, because if you're a marketer and you run a marketing agency and you're just coming up in the beginning, you have a little bit of results in a lot of different areas, and you don't know where to go in. So you just keep trying everything.
Yeah.
But if you just keep trying everything, you're never going to become great. You're never going to be able to double down on become great at something and actually scale it.
Yeah.
So I would say that shiny object syndrome really puts people out in terms of time and also mental just agility, like being able to be mentally present. Because one, if you have shiny object syndrome, your head's everywhere. Two, failure, because you keep failing along the way because you keep giving up, because shiny object syndrome keeps showing you something new that could work faster or better. So then your mental, it just gets worn on, and it's like, gosh, I keep trying everything. And the other perspective is, what if you just tried a little longer for that thing that had promise, but you just didn't want to wait on?
Yeah.
I think that right there, especially for marketers, because marketers, it's everyone, but I deal with marketing a lot right now. So I see it. It's like, they want to try everything. They want to try this new automation and that new tool and this new strategy. But
that's for sure.
It's too tough. It's tough.
Yeah. All right. So now, it sounds like you also bootstrapped your career, or did you have any help or funding from other sources?
Actually, no. The number one thing I've told myself, if I'm a marketer and I need to go get a bunch of funding, I'm doing something wrong. That's my opinion. I don't think, what am I going to do? Go get a fancier website? Go hire to do work that realistically I should be able to do, until I have someone hired and ready to be that person.
Yeah.
I've just found that I wanted to make it happen myself. I don't know if it sounds corny, or I didn't really feel like I needed somebody else to come in and just give me a bunch of money. I have people around me who I know are really worth a damn, and I know my vision and where I want everyone around me to head. So it just kind of felt like a cheat code. Honestly, it felt like a cheat code that I didn't want to have. Yeah. I wanted this challenge, to be honest.
I agree. So just wanted to get your take on that. A lot of entrepreneurs I talk to, a lot of founders, their first sort of sentence is, I have a brilliant idea, but I'm just waiting for the funding. Can you help me raise funding so that I can take my first step? What do you have to say to them?
Well, this is what I had to say to people who told me to do that, was I went out and made money another way, because I've always believed in my ability to figure it out. And I've always believed in my ability to make money, because that's what I auto-suggested to myself 3 years ago. And I believe it with my whole heart. So what I did was I got a sales job, and I've worked a sales job to supplement what I've done for the past 2 years. And it's been a really great sales job. And luckily I've had to work about, half time doing sales. I haven't had to go all in on it. And that allows me to be completely comfortable doing what I do, and also be able to invest in it and grow it. Most of the money I make, I reinvest in some sort of learning, some sort of business at this point. So yeah, it's just been really powerful to realize that right now, as an entrepreneur, where you start is not where you're going to finish. And all the power is in the growth and the journey, in what I've seen.
Very well said. Now, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience? Something that I haven't asked?
Something that you haven't asked? Well, I guess at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is tough, and it involves a lot of learning. I would say just don't do anything for anyone else. That's for me. When I relate it all to baseball, when I would pitch, the number one thing that got in my way was when I would let all my because I have a different pitching coach every year, and obviously every coach has their own swing on how things should be done. Mm-hmm. I found that every time I got away from what I knew in my mind and my heart was right, and I started listening to somebody else, I started to go in a downward spiral. Nice. The number one thing that's helped me in business and life is, one, just being super intentional about who I learn from, because everyone has an opinion, but realistically, I don't take 98% of them, because that's not who I'm aspiring to be. And also just to trust yourself. At the end of the day, you know yourself really well, and everyone is going to try and tell you what to do. But it has a lot to do with what was going to make you happy and where do you want to go. And I really believe if you listen to yourself, a lot more success and happiness comes from that. That's what I would say, because I've dealt through a lot. A lot of people have opinions, and that's just been my number one thing: is stay to my core, just stay to who I want to be, and see where it goes.
Well, that's a great advice. Thank you so much. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us a little bit about your company and how you help entrepreneurs, and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, right? The entrepreneur comes to you and says, okay, we're looking to grow my business. We have referrals. We have a couple people who send us leads every now and then. And other than that, we're not quite sure. That's like typically the bootstrap process. It's like, how can I figure out this? How can I figure out LinkedIn? I want to get leads. Basically, what we do is when companies or founders are in that stage, so we help them generate leads using social media, Instagram, that not just generate leads, but we also follow up and convert these leads into appointments. We've worked with niches in the past, like realtors and tech and other types of people like we spoke about. But right now we're focusing on home improvement companies, and we're seeing great results, and we're just looking to keep helping more companies grow their revenue, generate more leads, and build their business.
Awesome. And how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn at Matt Gorgolinski. I'm pretty active on there. We have an Instagram and a Facebook at high_impact marketing. And you can find me, Matt, at high-impactmarketing.com. That's my email if you wanted to reach out. Glad to connect.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all your knowledge and wisdom about sales and marketing, and a lot of other interesting things that I think are fundamental for success of any entrepreneur, any professional out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Manuj. I appreciate it.
And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you're an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com, and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.